I am going to be doing just a soft-spoken ramble today with some gum chewing, of course. I'm occasionally going to be drinking some water, and during my ramble, I'm also going to fulfill a request that I had for just showing you some books that I didn't necessarily love. I had done a video previously going over 5 different books that I really love, and I don't know, I don't hate many books, so the ones that I'm gonna share aren't books that I just like despised, but just ones that I didn't love, that I wouldn't like super recommend to people. And you may be different from me. You may really love the books that I don't recommend, so definitely still give them a try if they sound interesting to you. But anyways, today I'm going to try doing some bubble yum first. This is really good gum, but it does start to hurt my teeth after a while. So I'm going to chew this for a few minutes at least, and then if I need to switch, I will switch, because I'm not focusing on like blowing bubbles today. I'm just going to kind of be chewing gum, but I know that this gum does make very good sounds, so I'm going to chew it at least for a little while. So the weather, I feel like I always talk about the weather, but being able to be outside is really important to me. So I feel like it naturally comes up sometimes, but it has been so good the past few days. This weekend was kind of rainy, but yesterday and today have been amazing. Such good weather. And yesterday I wasn't really outside a ton, which kind of made me sad, but it was kind of a chaotic day. So today I did make sure to spend some time outside earlier, and then hopefully our family is gonna be outside this evening. So my son and I had lunch outside today because it was just perfect weather. And my back porch area has, like, around midday, it's perfectly like halved, and that like part of it is in the sun and part of it is in the shade. And so it's so nice because I can just move around according to how I'm feeling. So we had a really good time outside around that time. And of course my son loves to be outside, and he has some good outside toys. They keep him busy. Okay, so the first book I'm going to show you is called The Husband by Dean Koontz. And Dean Koontz is a very famous author. A lot of you have probably heard of him. Part of my critique of this book is probably just my own taste. My taste has changed in what I read. So, this is kind of a thriller book. And this type of book used to be like my favorite type of read. So that's what I mean when I say I know it's a good book. Like, a lot of you would probably really like it, but anyway, let me just read what the back says. It says, "We have your wife. You can get her back for $2 million cash." On an ordinary afternoon, an ordinary man, a gardener of modest means, gets a phone call out of his worst nightmare. The caller is dead serious. He doesn't care that Mitch can't raise that kind of money. He's confident that Mitch will find a way if he loves his wife enough. Mitch does love her enough. He loves her more than life itself. He's got 60 hours to prove it. He has to find the $2 million by then, but he'll pay a lot more. He'll pay anything. From its tense opening to its shattering climax, The Husband is a thriller that will hold you in its relentless grip for every twist, every shock, every revelation. This is a Dean Koontz novel after all, and there's no other experience quite like it. So, all very riveting. I thought I had read this several years ago, and when I saw it on my shelf, like, my husband really likes thriller type books, and I was trying to find a book to recommend to him, and when I saw this book, I thought it was a different book. It had a very similar title. I can't remember what it was, but something with husband in the title. I was thinking The Husband's Secret, but that's a Leanne Moriarty book, and I know what that is. It's not that book. I cannot remember the name of the book that I thought this was, but I had recommended it to my husband, and he wasn't getting to it, so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to read it again because I thought it was a different book. So I started reading it, and I was like, this is not the same book. And I didn't remember reading this one before. It just didn't grip me. Like, it wasn't. I ended up, after I finished it, I told my husband, I was like, don't read it. It's not great. But I don't love kidnapping like stories anymore like I used to. Like, once I had a child, I don't know, my taste just kind of changed for books. Dark stuff of, like, you know, in this case, his wife gets kidnapped. I just don't love it because I'm like, I don't know. It scares me a little bit now. So, but if you like those types of books, you probably like this thriller type book. Okay. I am going to switch gum now to my tried and true sugar-free extra gum because this is starting to bother my teeth. Okay, the second book, I'll be honest, I hesitated to even share this one as one I didn't like because this is totally, like, some of the subject of the book and the way that it was handled bothered me because of personal reasons. However, it is a very well-written book. Keeps you on the edge of your seat. Very exciting. And like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Like, So it's a good book, and it's very well written. Some of the subject material was a little bit sensitive for me personally, and I didn't love the way the main character responded. She kind of got on my nerves. So, if you don't have similar circumstances to me, some of the same personal things that have happened in your life probably won't bother you. But it bothered me. It just wasn't my personal preference. So, that being said, very well written, very intriguing book. Where'd you go, Bernadette? A lot of you have probably heard of this, if not because you've read it, but because it is a movie now. I want to say Cate Blanchett plays Bernadette. I haven't seen the movie actually, but I know that it is a movie. And I even think it was a movie by the time I read the book. But it's by Maria Semple. And it says divinely funny, and I do remember it had a lot of humor, very quirky book. It kept my attention, but I think probably, even if I read it now, I would probably like it more than I did at the time that I read it, because I was going through something very personal that made it hard for me to like this book. But let me share what it says. When 15-year-old B claims a family trip to Antarctica as a reward for perfect grades, her fiercely intelligent but agoraphobic mother, Bernadette, throws herself into preparations for the trip. Worn down by years of trying to live the Seattle life she never wanted, Bernadette is on the brink of a meltdown. As disaster follows disaster, she disappears, leaving her family to pick up the pieces, which is exactly what B does, weaving together emails, invoices, and school memos to reveal the secret past that Bernadette has been hiding for decades. Where'd You Go, Bernadette is an ingeniously entertaining novel about a family coming to terms with who they are and the power of a daughter's love for her imperfect mother. More of it is coming back to me now. I think I should probably read it again, now that I'm in a completely different season of life. But I was just trying to look at books on my shelf that I didn't love so that I could fulfill this request, and this one kind of jumped out at me for the reasons that I shared. So anyway, like I said, very well written. I should probably watch the movie. But I will say, this last book was truly not my cup of tea. It was so weird. And I understand it to an extent. It's about a writer. And I enjoy writing, so there's part of me that can understand where they were going with this book, this kind of extreme satire. But I don't know. I wasn't into it, and at the end of the book, I was just kind of bleh. I could have done very well to have never read this book. That might be an unpopular opinion. I don't know if some of you might have heard of it, but I had never heard of it. I have heard of another one of his books called Birdman. I haven't read it though. But this one is called The Crossed Out Notebook. And it has such a cool illustration on the front. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I will butcher it, but you can see here. And I'm just going to read the inside of the book. I also don't feel like I can pronounce the names very well, but I'm just going to go for it. I'm not going to say the last names. That's what I'll do. I'll just say the first names. Pablo, an Argentine screenwriter, has been abducted by the greatest Latin American film director of all time, Santiago. And he's kept in a basement where he toils on what he is told must at all costs be a world-changing screenplay. But Pablo and Santiago disagree on just about everything related to the screenplay, and Pablo begins recording their disagreements and the rest of his captivity in a secret diary. The Crossed Out Notebook is Pablo's chronicle of this time, his psychological torment by a maid, being threatened with a gun, and his vociferous arguing with Santiago about what he wrote the previous day. The clash between the two men and their different approaches leads to a movie being made, the discovery of the notebook, an unlikely confrontation, and a gun going off. In the end, The Crossed Out Notebook is a darkly funny novel full of intrigue and suspense about the essence of the creative process and a delicious, crazy ode to authorship and any artist whose brilliance shines through strangeness and adversity. So, Crossed Out Notebook. Out of the three, that was probably my least favorite. I can tell that the guy is such a good writer, but I just didn't like it. It was just too weird to me. And my sister recommended it to me, but it just wasn't really my thing. So, those are the three books that I would not personally recommend, although I'm not saying they are bad books. Just out of the ones that I saw in front of me today, I was like, yeah. In the past, few years, those are the books I've read that I actually own, that I was like, not my favorite. But I can always do videos on books that I loved because I have a lot of those. I think right now, at this point, I've read 37 books this year, I think. 37 books. I try to keep track of them so I know what I've read, when I've read it. Because I also like to recommend books to people. I like to share recommendations with people who love them. And I will say, someone recommended a book to me by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. And I downloaded it and I started reading it. And I think it will be a very beautiful book, and I will try to finish it. But I want to tell her and any of you, a few years ago, I read a book called The Aviator's Wife. And it was based on Anne Morrow Lindbergh's life. I don't know how many of you know anything about her, but she was married to the very famous pilot. I'm pretty sure he made the first transatlantic flight. And anyway, I'm just going to share my reason right now for being hesitant to read her book, because the book that was recommended to me was written by her, and the book The Aviator's Wife was not written by her, but it was based on her life. And I don't know how many of you know this, but in real life, their son was kidnapped out of their own home while she was home. The little boy was in his nursery on the second story, in the second floor of a house. And whoever these people were who abducted him got a ladder and like climbed up to the window, got into his nursery, and kidnapped him. This is true. And they set like a ransom for him. And they never got him back. They eventually found his tiny little body, I think. Oh. Anyway, it's too tragic to even talk about. It breaks my heart. And I read the book before I became a mother. And now that I'm a mother, I can't read things like that. It's too stressful to me to do. And so I think this book that was recommended to me was written by her after that tragic event in her life. And I'm just a little bit too nervous to continue reading it right now because of the feelings, the fear, and the things that it stirs up in my spirit. Because I just don't like thinking about things like that right now in this season of motherhood. It horrifies me. And honestly, if I had not read that other book about her life, then reading this book written by her would probably not be difficult for me at all, because I don't think it's meant to be like a sad book. I think it's just kind of like things that she learned, like being out in like their oceanside house, being by the beach, and like the lessons of the beach and the ocean. But because I know obviously the rest of her life was so imprinted by what happened to her child. It's just horrifying. And her husband was also horrible to her. He had like several other families that she didn't find out about until late in life. I think that she knew he was unfaithful to her, but she didn't realize to what extent until later in life that he actually had all of these children with all these other women. Oh my word. So horrifying. So many horrifying things happened in her life. But now that I've shared all of that depressing stuff, that is a book I would recommend. It was very good, but it was very sad. The Aviator's Wife. But right now I'm reading The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. So good. Very, very good book. I really like that author. I think I already shared that I recently read The Rose Code by her, by Kate Quinn. And that was so good. The Rose Code is like a World War II novel. The Alice Network goes from like post-World War II back to World War I. it goes back and forth. It's really good. Anyway, I hope this video finds everyone well. And I hope you found this relaxing. Keep the requests coming. I'm trying to fulfill most requests. If it's something that I don't feel comfortable with, I won't do it. But most things people have requested, I am totally fine to do so. I hope you all have a wonderful day.